Transcription is also started. We will share the recording afterwards on our website together with all the presentations, etc. So for now, we have quite a busy agenda. We have a lot of speakers. So let's give the floor to Gwynne, our project leader.
Yes, thank you, Sven. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the final conference of the C-Roads Antwerp Helmond project. The focus today is on the results of our project, but before we dig into those, I would like to give you a short introduction to our project. So our project C-Roads Antwerp Helmond is part of the larger C-Roads partnership. The C-Roads partnership is a European initiative to link and align CITS deployments across Europe. 15 European cities are involved and started with the CITS rollout in urban areas. And then there's 20,000 kilometers of European roads that are equipped with CITS, a short-range CITS, and 100,000 kilometers of European roads that are covered by long-range CITS services. So with the C-Roads partnership, there also is a C-Roads platform with the goal to link all CITS deployments in Europe. Furthermore, the platform works on developing, sharing, and publishing common technical specifications. The platform also plans intensive cross-testing to verify interoperability between service providers, but also between member states. And lastly, they develop a system test based on the common communication profiles, which focuses on a hybrid communication mix consisting of a combination of ETSI, ITS-G5, and operational cellular networks. Then our project, the C-Roads Antwerp Helmond project, started in November 2022 and runs for 2 years, and our consortium consists of 9 Flemish and Dutch partners. As the name already tells you, the project involves the cities of Antwerp and Helmond, and we've also piloted CITS services on the TEN-T network connecting these 2 cities. Then the project goals. First of all, the aim was to deploy combined Day 1 and Day 1.5 CITS services in both Antwerp and Helmond. Then to test cross-border and interoperability of the services between those 2 cities. Furthermore, we've evaluated the different services on functional aspects, impact assessment, and user acceptance. And lastly, we developed scalability and implementation strategies for the different services, which will be covered in session 5 today. I will go to the program of today later on. In our project, we had various use cases that we piloted, and they were all grouped into 3 categories. The first category is CITS and ADAS, or Advanced Driving Assistance Systems, where we have 2 different technologies. First of all, Intelligent Speed Assistance, or ISA, which will be covered today in session 1. And we have real-time traffic information provided by Flitsmeister, which will be covered in session 2. The second category of the pilots is CITS and UVAR, or Urban Vehicle Access Regulations, where we have 5 different use cases. Of these, the temporary speed restrictions near school areas will also be covered in session 2 surrounding Flitsmeister. And speed restrictions for active mobility users, the slow speed zones, will be covered in session 3. And the last category of the pilots was CITS and urban mobility services, and the traffic light priority for trucks and bicycles will be covered today in session 4. So with that, we have the following conference program. After this short introduction, I will give the floor to a project officer from CINEA, and then we will present you the results of the pilots in 4 different sessions. So ISA, real-time traffic information, slow speed zones, and traffic light priority. And we will end with a session on recommendations, ecosystem, and implementation strategies. For each of these sessions, we will first give you a presentation, and then there will be room for a question and answer. So with that, I would like to give the floor to Giacomo Somma, project officer at CINEA.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Gwynne. I'm very pleased to be here with you today. I will share my desktop so that you can see my presentation. I hope this can be visible to everyone. My name is Giacomo Somma. I'm a project advisor in CEF Transport at European Climate Infrastructure and Environmental Executive Agency. Just a short overview on our effort. I mean, and in the domain of intelligent transport system. First of all, a small presentation. Oops. So this is, I will give a short presentation of SINEA and CEF, an overview on the CEF portfolio of ITS projects, and also some hints on the open proposal, call for proposal 2024, just published last September. So SINEA and CEF, as you might know, SINEA managed on behalf of the European Commission several programs that you can see on the screen now, with a total budget of 50 billion euros over 7 years between 2021 and 2027. One, and actually in terms of budget, the biggest program managed by SINEA is Connecting Europe Facility 2 in the domain of transport and energy. The budget of this program actually is more than half of the total budget managed by SINEA, which amounts to 31, slightly more than 31 billion euros, of which 25.8 are dedicated to the transport sector. When we come to ITS, we have witnessed a very strong interest, a growing interest, and also evolution over the past years. If you can look at if you have a look at what is on the slide now, in the 10T program, when the agency was created as a 10T executive agency, there were only 13 projects between 2007 and 2013, with a EU funding of 270 million euros. In the first CEF program, 2014-2020, the last projects are ending now in December this year. We funded 54 ITS projects in the ITS domain with a total amount of €500 million, slightly higher than €500 million in terms of European Union funding. And now in 2021, we have started CEF2, so the new framework program, which is ending in 2027, which Sea Roads Antwerp Helmond is part of, and is one of the 10 projects awarded so far. The last grant agreements have been signed in the very last days, and already we are at 250 million euros. Apart from the growing number of the projects, this figure tells you also something else if you read them very carefully. While in the first program we were still, let's say, in the development phase, transition between research and development and deployment, the first CEF program with 54 projects, there were many pilots. Most of them were small scale. There were still proof of concepts, but now with CEF2 we are going to another level. So if you see, already with 10 projects we have invested 200 million euros of 250 million euros of European funding. What does this mean? That we are moving from piloting to full permanent operational deployment. So the deployments are much larger scale, if not full scale. We have a sequence of projects which have managed to cover actually full scale in certain areas. And so this is the difference. We move now from piloting to real life, full scale, permanent operational deployment. I repeat it twice because this is really very important. CEF indeed is not a program conceived for research and development, but is conceived as a nature. CEF is an infrastructure project. So even new developments, proof of concepts, or that can be funded in CEF studies are not aimed to research basic research, fundamental research, not even low TRL level research, but are actually these kind of studies are in the perspective of deployment. Here you can see a few figures, a few pictures of what of examples of what this look like in the presentation that you will see today in this final event by the colleagues who have worked so hard for 2 years in this project. You will see a number of these things with very fruitful insights. And these are a little bit the same things, but in words. So what are the activities supported by ITS projects, infrastructures, development or upgrade of a traffic management center to make them interactive, to interface with national access point, with roadside ITS station, then enhancing data collection, exchange, usage, dissemination, use and reuse. We have also e-call, cross borders for services continuity is very important, and we also bring intelligence with this funding into truck parking areas. So not only availability, but also other ITS services. And then this is also in the mission of SINE as the Green Deal executive agency, multimodality, to improving to improve the use of public transport services, but also active and soft transport modes. And all this, the overall umbrella is the coordination, harmonization, interoperability, and monitoring of the CITS deployment so that this is can work and be continuously available across borders from one area to another of the same country or the European Union in a seamless way for the citizens, whether they are regular citizens or businesses. You see, I bet you're familiar with this image, which is there since decades. Have been updated the core network corridors and also the comprehensive network corridors in the recently with the entry into force of the new regulation, 10T regulation. Inside this, the ITS corridors are what you see more or less, and there is always a continuous update of this. What you see on the screen is they cover not only the core network, but also the extended core, the comprehensive network, and very important, the urban nodes, like it is the case of the focus of C-Roads, Antwerp Helmond, which focus on the 2 urban nodes and the connecting highway. Well, a few last words about the CEF call for proposals. If you click, this is a clickable link. I don't know if this presentation will be published on the web, but you can see by clicking here, you can look at the full video and presentations of the info day that we held beginning of October. This is very informative in case you want to submit a proposal to this call. And regarding the ITS call, basically work studies or mixed are allowed, bearing in mind that studies are not R&D again. And the projects supported are for the deployment or upgrade or update of the ITS infrastructure on the basis of the Directive 2018, the ITS Directive, which has been recently amended in 2023, including the upgrade of e-call and NAPs. And of course, deployment of CITS station. One thing which is also important is that the alignment with the CITS platform and interoperability with existing and CITS stations and services in line with the specifications defined by the C-Roads platform. And of course, security certificate policy for this operational deployment. The maximum co-funding is up to 50%. And here looks a little bit, here this is also a clickable link, how it looks like the funding and tenders portal. You click here on the top left, calls for proposal. This is the call, and here is the link to the specific page, how it looks like. So what I showed on the screen on the previous slide is a summary of what is written here in this page. But bear in mind that this is always update. So you see here at the bottom there is topic updates, because there is FAQs, frequently asked questions, that the Commission, DG Move, but also CNR receive. They are always updated. So have a continuous look at the page, because you might have find your answer to better prepare your proposal for submission. And the deadline for submission is actually, so it was opened, as I said, in end of September 24th, and the deadline for submission is 21st of January. This is the process. It takes for those, the evaluation process takes about 5 months. And bear in mind, also when you plan your, in case you will be successful in when you plan your holidays, think about that after an external evaluation assisted by external independent expert, there is an internal evaluation, a selection committee with the GMove and CINEA, and a SEF committee also with the member states. And then the decision is taken. If you are one of those lucky among the audience, if there is one applicant who will be granted the funding, bear in mind the grant agreement preparation process start in the summertime, in July, around the 3rd week of July. So plan carefully your holidays and also the beneficiaries, the consortium, because the time to grant is, the deadline is 23rd of October. And this is a go, no go process deadline. And everything has to be prepared and ready, finalized, the grant agreement 1 month before this 23rd of October. So basically, we have to work together during the summertime. So this is, I'm telling this because you will see this is also explained in the video of the info day, but it's also a critical thing to know. The evaluation is made based on several criteria. I'm not going to go into details of each criteria, but simply to tell you that each criteria is very important, and there is a pass mark for each criteria, and a minimum score then of 15 across the 5 criteria. If you need help, if you want more information, here is where you can have it. It's plenty of links on and also functional mailbox where you can contact the CINEA and the Commission. And with this, I would like to thank you for your time. And if you have any question, please contact us. I don't want to steal time to this event. So contact us through the email and the functional mailbox or the help desk. And have a look at the FAQ. Thank you for this, and with this, I'm done.
Thank you. We will share your presentation on our website, so there's no problem. Normally, if the PDF has clickable links, then people will be able to. Then there is no problem. Everyone can then reach to the information. Thank you very much. That was very insightful. Okay. As Gwyneth said, we have a lot to cover today. There are 4 pilot cases that we wish to discuss. Let's first start with the first pilot case on intelligent speed assistance. And I would like to give the word to v-tron now.
Yes. Hello, my name is Niels Knappers, working at v-tron. I will shortly introduce, I think my screen is shared now.
Yep, that's okay.
Shortly introduce, let's say, what we've done with ISA in the SEF project. Yeah, as I said, I work for v-tron, part of the consortium in this project. We are based in the Netherlands, in Deventer, and we are like an in-car service provider focused on smart vehicle innovations. What we brought in this project is our aftermarket own developed intelligent speed assistance, also called ISA, of course, and CITS onboard units to make these combinations within the project. We collaborate generally with local, regional, and general road authorities and OEMs. And within the project, we focus on the further development of our ISA system. Multiple improvements are tested and demonstrated within this project, and the integration between CITS with our onboard unit and our ISA system is achieved and showcased together with UNEX. Also, end users participated in extensive test drives with our dedicated test vehicle equipped with an ISA system, which will be elaborated further later in this presentation. And those participants provided us valuable feedback for further improvements in the future. Multiple developments are successfully tested and demonstrated in both Helmond, Antwerp, and also the region, cross-border region in between. The pillars itself where v-tron is focusing on within the company is CITS, automated driving, fleet management, and speed adaptation, where of course the last and the first one are now combined in this project. So as a kind of recap, what actually is ISA? It's called Intelligent Speed Assistance. It's our own developed product called ISA Fit, and it can, as an aftermarket system, be installed in virtually all vehicles driving around currently on the roads. What it does, it limits the vehicle on the maximum allowed speed so that the drivers cannot exceed that, and in that sense helps, of course, for safer roads and less accidents. How does the system actually work? We have a general, let's say, computer on it that limits the vehicle, and it's based on both a vision sensor, so a kind of camera in the car that scans traffic signs, a GPS with a digital speed map. That speed map we get both from Antwerp, Flanders, and the Netherlands. And both with those systems, we can, let's say, determine what the maximum allowed speed is where the driver is driving. And as last, what we now have as an input is the CITS information. This gives you a kind of schematic overview of what I just mentioned. The central thing is the ISA processing and logging unit, which you can see here on the left side. It has the inputs of the digital speed map. Within this project, we use the speed map from the NWB in the Netherlands, and both from the open data portal in Antwerp and the city of Antwerp himself. Combined with that GPS sensor, the car does know what speed it's allowed on that current road. And we have a vision sensor module, which is here. It's placed on the windscreen of a car and detects the signs. It's not a camera logging actual images or something. It just registers the speed. That sends it to the speed limiter in the vehicle, and of course, as support, it also shown to the driver via an HMI, which you can see here on the right side, to indicate the maximum speed where the vehicle is limited to, and it also enables us to combine the CITS use cases with ISA, which will be explained later. Last but not least, within this project, we have an alternative, an extra additional input to the system, and that are then also the messages coming from the roadside units via short range or via the cellular path in general via our onboard unit. So what are then the ISA developments more during this project? We enhanced our ISA algorithm for improved functionalities, improved and combined digital speed maps, enabling cross-border functionality. What I said, we have different maps across out the whole Europe. They also from different qualities. Some are poor, some are quite okay. And within this project, we kind of combined it in one system, so also the driver can cross borders without any problems with the ISA system. It will still function. Besides that, we improved the HMI, so the human-machine interface, so the screen for the driver. It has a better functionality and better interface to the driver, and it enables us to make the combined use cases with CITS. Furthermore, we extended the ISA logging, so every event, traffic sign, etc., which is scanned by the camera, is also logged, and that enables us to give better analysis about the use of the product, but also improve the digital map. That comes us to the point with the ISA feedback loop. This enables us automated updates of the digital speed maps based on discrepancies between the vision sensor and the digital speed map. So both the inputs, let's say, are locked, and when there are discrepancies, we can see which one is wrong or not, and we can validate that. And then we can turn that back to the the road authority responsible for that data set, which then can be improved, and we can, of course, automatically download that afterwards. And so we have a kind of self-improving loop, which will be explained later in one of the presentations. Then the combining CITS and ISA, which is a new thing. Like I said, it's also beside the maximum speed, but what was previously only shown on the HMI to the driver. We can also inform the driver on the same HMI about other hazardous locations or safety hazards on the road. What we do then is combine our onboard unit with our ISA system, and we receive via both of the hybrid ways, so via the cellular pod and via ITS-G5. Warning messages, which we use the CITS at sea IVI and denim messages, which we also demonstrated in Antwerp and Helmond with both roadworks warning, and here in Antwerp with a tunnel height warning, warning the driver about the maximum height of the tunnel. That was my part of the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. I think Winnie, you're next.
Yes, thank you, Niels, for that introduction. Then for what we did in Antwerp, we equipped a taxi vehicle there with an inactive ISA system, which means that the vehicle was not limited to the speed limit, as Niels was just explaining that the ISA system can do. But we noticed already beforehand a lot of issues with the digital map and the GPS accuracy, which is why we opted for an inactive ISA system, which still logs a lot of data regarding the digital map, the GPS location, and also the vision sensor observations. And this allowed us to do an analysis on the discrepancies between the digital map and the camera observations. This taxi drove around for a bit over a month and collected in total 8,800 data points. And of those data points, in over 3,000 cases, there were camera observations. And in 1,100 cases where there was a speed limit by both the digital map and the vision sensor, there was a discrepancy between those two. So in a lot of cases, we noticed that these two are not aligned. And we noticed that the most common discrepancies between the digital map and the camera were the 70 registered by the digital map and 50 read by the camera, 100 by the digital map. Sorry. I'll keep going. And 70 by the vision sensor, and lastly, 50 registered by the digital map and 30 recorded by the camera. To illustrate this, I will give you two examples. First of all, an example of a 50-30 deviation, so 50 by the digital map and 30 according to the camera. This is here happening on the Frankrijklei in Antwerp, where the main road has a maximum speed of 50 kilometers an hour, and the parallel road has a maximum speed of 30 kilometers an hour. But the vision sensor here sees the zone 30 sign here for the parallel road and thinks that it also is applicable on the main road, and that's why there is this discrepancy happening. We've also recorded the speed of the taxi vehicle, and we saw that on this section the vehicle was accelerating from 37 to 46 kilometers an hour, so well within the speed limit. But if we would go with the camera observation, this would be too high. Then a second example here is of multiple deviations happening on an overpass. So this is an overpass crossing the A12 in Antwerp. On the overpass, the entire section, the speed limit is 50 kilometers an hour. And we see that the vision sensor is correct when it does detect the speed sign, which is the case in the dark blue, the green, and the light blue dots. But when it does not register a speed, the pink-orange dots here on the slide, then we have to rely on the digital map. But in this case, digital map thinks that the speed limit is 70 kilometers an hour. So that is not correct here. And this issue here happens because of the height difference between the overpass and the highway. But in the digital map, some of the layers do not have that 3D aspect, which explains why the digital map here says it's 120 kilometers an hour of speed limit on the part that actually crosses the highway. So here with these examples, we see that there are still quite some issues with the current digital maps that we are using. And that the feedback loop, as Niels just explained, would be a valuable concept to go towards a solution that improves the digital map. And with that, we will go to the user acceptance part for this pilot.
Okay, my name is Bart. I'm working at TML. The following results concerns acceptability and acceptance testing of the ISA system in Helmond. We recruited volunteers for a test drive with the ISA system in Helmond in the Netherlands, and we conducted their paper and pencil surveys, one survey before the test drive and one after the test drive. This was combined also with a brief interview about the driver's experience afterwards. The surveys before the test drive investigates whether there is a need, a benefit, or a demand for the service, and the surveys after the test drive examines the user experience, whether the service meets the driver's expectations, needs, and desires. 2 cars with ISA were made available for almost a week, and participants took a test drive about 30 minutes. The route includes sections with speed limits of 30, 50, and 70 kilometers an hour. And after the recruitment phase, more than 20 people signed up, and on the testing days, 15 people showed up. The first slide concerns road safety, and in the following figures we combine results from the acceptability and the acceptance surveys, so the surveys before and after the test drive, and participants responded to statements using a Likert scale. The horizontal axis shows the Likert scale, and the vertical axis represents the percentage of drivers who indicated their level of agreement. The legend is referring to the pre and the post test of the test drive. The acceptability survey was conducted before the test drive, therefore we name it pre-test, and the acceptance survey was conducted after the test drive, therefore we named it post-test. So for the first figure, participants generally report driving more safely. In the left figure, drivers expected to drive more safely before the test drive, and this sentiment remained after they tested ISA. The primary aim of ISA is to adhere better to speed limits, and most test drivers expected that ISA can accomplish this aim. However, they were a little bit skeptical at first, and in the right figure, taking a look at the pre-test, a few disagree or responded neutral to the statement, thanks to this application, I adhere better to speed limits, but they were all convinced after the test drive. All agreed or agreed strongly with that statement. In the left figure, some participants indicated they might override or overrule the ISA system in situations when driving feels safe. This can raise some safety concerns and needs follow-up to prevent this overriding of the system too much. At least participants seems to be honest. When comparing safety benefits for drivers versus other road users in the right figure, most participants recognized the safety benefit for themselves and found that the safety advantages were well balanced between them and the other road users. Regarding focus and distraction, in the left figure, a few participants were concerned at first that the system might interfere or distract them too much. This is probably because ISA is an intervening system that automatically reduces speed. However, after the test drive, the participants reported that the system did not distract them. And in the right figure, in the post-test, participants said that they felt less need to check the speedometer frequently, which could improve overall traffic awareness. That is good for the road safety. I have here a slide and a few figures on future use and adoption. In the right figure, 70% of the participants said they would like to have ISA in their car, and 23% were neutral, and 7% did not want the system. And after the test drive, the willingness to adopt ISA increased slightly. In the left figure, most participants thought implementing the system for everyone would be a good societal investment. Then I come to the conclusion of this testing. So 90% of the participants find ISA useful. There was already a positive expectation about the system, but participants were even more positive after the test drive. When volunteers arrived at the test site, they were a bit reluctant about an intervening system that takes away driving control from them. However, when they tested it, it felt natural to them. That's what we have reported during these interviews. The ISA system now is mandatory for new cars in Belgium and in the Netherlands, in line with the European directives. So thank you for your attention. And I give the floor back to the moderator.
Okay, thank you, Bart. Before we continue with the next pilot, I would like to know if people have any questions to this, to one of the speakers, or any details or any comments. Feel free, you can unmute and then just ask your question. Don't be shy. Well, it seems everything was crisp and clear. So let's move on. We can always debate later on, no problem. So Lisa, take it away.
Yes, thank you, Sven. Hello, good afternoon, everyone. So my name is Lisa, and I will give a short introduction about the next pilot, showcasing real-time traffic information via the mobile application Flitsmeister, and also briefly introduce B-Mobile. So if all is well, you can see my screen with the slides. I will move on to the next slide. So I work for B-Mobile, and B-Mobile is a Belgium-based company with headquarters in Ghent. We offer a broad range of solutions for traffic management, traffic information, mobility payments, tolling management, and logistics. And this also results in a broad range of clients. We help and support road authorities, local governments, municipalities, cities, parking operators, transport and logistic managers, and the automotive sector. Something that makes us unique is that we also have our own mobile apps. They are visualized here. So we have Flitsmeister, Sway, Truckmeister, and 4411. 4411 is not used in this project, but all the other three apps are connected to our CITS platform, where we use and process lots of geo-event data. And thanks to these mobile apps, we can reach individual road users, provide services, share relevant traffic information, and also really build a bridge between public road authorities and multimodal road users. And so encourage really the private and the public cooperation, align individual mobility demands and needs with the public goals of road authorities. Within this project, the focus of B-Mobile was on the CITS use cases supported via our mobile apps using 4G and cellular communication. So it's about long-range communication, and our pilot sites were Antwerp, Helmond, and also TNT, connecting both and thus also supporting cross-border. On the next slide, you can see which applications are used for which categories of the CITS use cases, shortly explained by Gwynne. For now, we're going to focus on the pilot with Flitsmeister, where all of the 3 categories are supported. And here you can see which use cases we have supported during the pilot and were available for the test drivers during the pilot. So for others, we had the dynamic and static roadwork warnings, the dynamic and static in-vehicle signage. So for example, the matrix signs on highways, other hazardous location notifications. This includes warnings for stationary vehicles, accidents on the road, obstacle on the road, person on the road, wrong-way drivers, emergency vehicles. And this is all supported via Seabird's denim messages. Then we also have the traffic light, maneuver, road, and lane topology, where we can see the status of the traffic lights in the app and also see a countdown clock until the time is green, the status is green. And then we also have the traffic jam ahead on highways to really specify and locate the tails of new and dangerous traffic jams. For UVAR, we had the temporary speed restrictions near school areas for Antwerp. This is a data feed that is connected via IVI messages. And lastly, we also had the pre-trip park and ride advice for drivers on the highways to encourage the use of park and rides. This was also part of the scale-up project and was also tested there. In our conceptual study, we also looked at on-trip advice and verified what the advantages would be as a complement to this. As you can see on the right corner on top, we had a lot of test drivers recruited. So the goal was to target at a minimum of 750 target test drivers, and we ended up having almost 800. So we did a lot of recruitment campaigns, including emails, social media posts, physical recruiting also by BXL, and also recruitment via Flitsmeister via a pop-up to encourage drivers to subscribe and also fill in our surveys. We also wanted to recruit more than 250 professional drivers. So professional drivers are drivers that are using the Flitsmeister app during their profession. And we also asked the question of what type of vehicle they were driving, and they indicated that 50% of the drivers were using a delivery van, 40% a truck, because Flitsmeister is also can also be used by truck drivers. As you can indicate and configure your type of vehicle that you're driving, the app will change the maximum speeds that are applicable for truck drivers. So there's also a large percentage of professional drivers that are driving a truck and using Flitsmeister, and 10% indicated that they are using another type of vehicle for their professional. It could be a taxi or a bus. On the next slide, I have included some screenshots of the notifications that the users are receiving per CITS use case that I previously listed. So the first one is for the IVS. Here you can see some examples of the maximum speeds that are shown per lane that you're driving on, and we also indicate if there is a lane closed or if a lane is planning to be closed and when you're moving up. And then on the right, you can see how the traffic lights information is presented in the app. So here it's also available per lane, the information. You can see a countdown if this information is available. And this is especially useful if the traffic light is not yet visible for the driver when he's approaching a traffic light, for example, if it's a curved road or if the view is blocked by a truck or something else. Then on the next slide, we have the notifications for the roadwork warnings use case. So it's in Dutch, but I quickly go over it. So it's for breakdown helpers, towing services, text cars, traffic controllers, road inspectors, mowers, and just the usual roadworks. And for the dynamic roadwork warnings, we also had an additional use case piloted in Helmond, where the quick service teams were able to share their locations in real time if they were doing intervention on the road. And then we can send specifically warnings to road users that are approaching this quick service team. And the quick service team indicated that they really experienced a difference in how the vehicles were, how much the vehicles were driving. They were really slowing their speed, and also they were better informed, and it was especially useful on roads where the maximum speed was around 70, to make sure that the road safety is guaranteed. And then on the right side, I have some examples of the other hazardous location notifications. So it's for the emergency vehicles, wrong way drivers, stationary vehicles, accidents, obstacle on the road, and person on the road. As Flitsmeister has a very large community, so it's in fact the most popular navigation app in the Netherlands. In total, we have more than 3 million users in Europe, especially in the Netherlands. It's a very well-known app, and it's also a way of collecting a lot of road user feedback about current but also possible new traffic events. These events are processed by our CRTS platform, and we translate them in appropriate denim messages following the C-Road standards. So it's really a way of enhancing our data availability, data quality, and also make sure to remove events that are no longer applicable on the road. Okay. So I'll give the word back to Bart.
Okay, thank you, Bart. You can join now. You have ample time for your presentation. You're muted, probably.
Yes, okay. I had to go back, forward and back. Okay, in the next slides, I'll talk about the acceptance testing for the in-car real-time traffic information. We conducted surveys before and after a 2-month trial period in which volunteers used the system. The surveys before this trial period, we call them pre-test, and they serve two goals. First, they helped us analyze participants' expectations and their view on the concept of the service. And secondly, they create a baseline for various statements that are used in the post-test, which is conducted after the trial period. As Lies already said, there are more than 700 volunteers. We have 298 private and professional drivers that completed the first survey, the pre-survey, and we have 214 that finished the second one. Here are some slides about the participants. Although this test involved new technology, we had a notable number of older volunteers. As can be seen in the left figure, many over the age of 60 are present. However, the majority of the volunteers were men, 88%. And in the right figure at the bottom, it shows that most participants are experienced drivers in the sense that they drive more than 5 years with the vehicle. It is important to mention that many of the participants were already familiar with similar services. I think these days it's very difficult to find people who are not familiar with these kind of services. So in the left figure, nearly 80% said they regularly use navigation apps when driving. And in the right figure, it can be seen that a large number of participants had previously used Flitsmeister. And the in-vehicle information service in this test was partly a new version of that app. So most people had a good idea of what to expect prior to the trial period. This prior experience likely explains why the pre-test and the post-test results shows rather similar response patterns, as we will see in the next coming slides. The first slide concerns statements about road safety. In the left figure, participants had the expectation to drive more safely before the trial period, and they kept faith in the safety benefit after the trial period. In the right figure, the statement concerns the advisory speed limits, the IVS, and participants indicated that it supported them to adhere to the speed limits. And these responses are indicative for an increase in the road safety. Here, two more figures about road safety. The left figure demonstrates that many of the participants are capable to ignore the advisory speed limits before the trial period started. People seem to be honest about that. They also agreed that they have ignored the advisory speed limits when the trial period finished, although the level of obedience was a little bit better than what they had indicated in the prior test. Indifferently between the pre and the post test, in the right figure, most of the participants believe that the service will reduce the chance of a collision. And this is an important response indicating a win in road safety. Another concern is how the service interact with the driver, whether it draw attention away from the road. We have a few statements to test the driver's interaction. And first, in the left figure, participants did not find the speed warnings annoying. In the right figure, it shows that participants did not switch off the service because the service distracted them from the driving task. In this slide, we have again confirmation. So in the left figure, it shows that in general, participants didn't find the notifications too distracting. And to conclude this HMI session, the right figure shows that participants thought that the notifications were easy to understand. In the next topic, which is about traffic efficiency, we see in the left figure that participants agreed that rolling out the service for all drivers could lead to smoother traffic and shorter traffic jams. In the right figure is focused on the timing information related to the green phase at the traffic lights. Before the trial, participants expected that this information would help them slow down more gradually at traffic lights. However, after the trial, fewer participants were convinced about this effect. We don't know why, but we know that from a technical evaluation that the service itself is functioning well. Here we have some slides about the usability and adoption. In these two figures, we see a consistent pattern. The majority of the participants, around 90%, found the in-vehicle information service useful and would like to keep receiving these notifications in the future. So in these two charts, when we ask participants to list the notifications that they find useful, they mentioned traffic jam, speed limits. They also mentioned warnings for obstacles and roadwork warnings and waiting time information at traffic light. But when we ask them to name the most useful services, then they first said it was the warnings for obstacles, which is a group of services actually, then followed by speed limits, and then as last the traffic jam alerts. We have carried out much more analysis than what's shown here. For example, we looked specifically at professional drivers as a target group, but we found similar patterns. We also split participants samples into two groups based on attitudes and other characteristics, like their attitude towards road safety, their openness to innovation, their need for information, and those that use the service a lot versus those that don't use the service a lot. Although we found a few significant differences between these groups that we also reported, there were no remarkable findings. So I come here to the conclusion. Overall, there was a high acceptability and acceptance of the service. Participants believe the service has the potential to enhance road safety. There's also confidence in its ability to improve traffic safety. There are some reservations about the way the traffic light eases driving and stopping for traffic lights, but that's the only small element that we could detect. So I thank you for your attention, and I give the floor back to Sven.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone have any specific questions regarding this pilot case for in-vehicle information, etc.? Okay, if not, then we'll go ahead. The next part will be about slow speed zones, and I'll give the floor to the city of Antwerp.
Yes, let's see if it's already loading. I hope so. Okay, I'll try again to share my screen.
Yep, it's there.
All right. Hi, I'm Lucas. I'm living in and working for the city of Antwerp. And we have for a time had many micro-mobility solutions in our city. And with this project, we have evaluated the implementation of the slow speed zones in the city of Antwerp. So with micromobility, we mainly look into the electric scooters and the electric shared scooters. We have them for a while, and the first issues we had when they arrived in our city is that we had uncontrolled growth, chaotic parking, and no way to interfere or control what was happening as a city. So this led to the first regulations in 2018, where providers of shared electric mobility needed to have a permit, which gave us a means of control. In that permit, we could limit the number of amount of providers. So we had 3 permits for electric scooters. And in that, we also limited the number of vehicles, the number of vehicles that were specifically in the city centers, because you can imagine that everybody wants their electric shared scooter in the middle of the city. And we also wanted this mobility to be available for other parts of our city. And we could hold companies responsible for parking issues, as you see in the pictures below. Later, we made some revisions. So also with the help of some European projects, we created geofencing zones, no-go zones where people couldn't go, for example, tram tracks, tunnels, and others, the central station, for example. No park zones, so locations where we really didn't want people to park, and slow speed zones. Think about pedestrian zones where we want people to slow down, or parks. We created drop zones based on the parking data that we received from the companies. On the left picture, you see the heat map that we use for creating drop zones. In the middle, you see such a drop zone. Often it is just a painting on the floor where we ask people to park their scooter or a moped. But in some areas where we have a no parking zone, this is the only location where people are allowed to actually park their scooter by means of geofencing. And with this data portal that we created for the shared mobility companies, we could also see where the vehicles were, so that we could track how much vehicles were actually within the city center and how many vehicles were outside of the city center. Now, for this project, we looked into the evaluation of slow speed zones with the question, do these slow speed zones have a positive impact on safety and comfort of pedestrians in that area? We did this by several means. We did a functional test ourselves together with Tractable. We evaluated the historical trip data from an electric scooter supplier. We executed a survey together with PXL, and we counted the amount of micromobility, different micromobility modes in two slow speed zones to understand how much micromobility modes were there. Think about some of the things were cyclists, some were private scooters, and some were shared scooters, to just see how big the impact of a slow speed zone can be. For this counting, you could see on the right the numbers. So 13% of the micromobility we saw were actually electric scooters. So this is also includes cyclists, and 3% of those scooters was actually, or 3% of the micromobility that we saw was actually a shared electric scooter. So that's the percentage that adheres to the slow speed zone. And this is because 80% of the scooters that we saw were actually private owned scooters. So in these observations that we also made, we saw that the slow speed zone speeds of 8 kilometers actually worked, and we think it's still a good safety policy. However, the impact is very low. So 3% is not much, but we still think it's worth the while. And the question remains, how can we implement this towards more modes, of course? Then for our functional tests, we wanted to know how the different electric scooters reacted to the slow speed zones. So we tested the scooters from different providers and measured when they would actually start slowing down when entering a slow speed zone, when they would actually start speeding up when leaving a slow speed zone, and what's the average deceleration distance was. We discovered that there were actually a lot of irregularities here. Not all scooters reacted fast enough or braked fast enough in those slow speed zones. We think, and we discussed it with the providers, that this has a lot to do also with the frequency. You can imagine if it reacts a couple seconds late and you're already driving 20 kilometers an hour, so you'll be already way within the slow speed zone. And with some small slow speed zones or like narrow slow speed zones, this can pose a problem. Also, we measured the top speeds and the braking, and it needs to be clear that those top speeds need to be similar because of competition between those providers, and that the braking also needs to be good enough when entering a slow speed zone, because otherwise it still takes a really long while before you reach that 8 kilometers an hour, which can still pose safety problems. We also wanted to know what impact a slow speed zone had on the actual trips that were being made. So in the middle here, you see that little green branch. This is the slow speed zone on the Mare, a busy shopping street, and it has been there for a while. And we asked the providers for some trip data before and after this slow speed zone was implemented. And by means of two methods, we compared that data. Every electric scooter has a ping, so every couple seconds it shows the location where it's at. And by means of those pings, we could see if they would travel through this green branch you see in the middle or not. So before and after, so with method one, we discovered there was a drop of trips that went through the slow speed zone after it was implemented. This was around 7.5 to 12.4%. And with the other method, we also measured that there was a drop of around 25%. Of course, this is just a way to figure this out. This isn't super exact, but we can still conclude that some drivers are inclined to take a different route. But we also see that not all drivers are taking a different route, which also can cause problems on other streets. So I think this is a good outcome. Together with PXL, we did a survey, and here are some of the conclusions that we made from it. Most drivers think that 8 kilometers per hour is too slow, and it makes them consider using a private scooter rather than a shared scooter and change their route. Although the drivers are not positive towards this policy, they do think it is making the environment safer for pedestrians. The pedestrians, in their case, actually want this policy to be extended to other zones and other modes of transport. This because their frustration is not only towards electric scooters, but also towards cyclists and mopeds in these areas. The pedestrians also don't really experience the difference between private scooters and shared scooters in the slow speed zones, which makes it a bit hard to relate their answers directly to the policy. But I think any policy in this regard for the pedestrians is a good thing. As a conclusion, we think that the slow speed zones have a positive impact on safety and comfort of pedestrians in that area. However, it is not really a big impact, but we think it is valuable enough. Then, functionality, we think improvements need to be made to let electric scooters react timely and consistently. After the implementation, we see that a small group is avoiding the slow speed zones, which we think is positive. The opinions I just discussed, and the impact is, it is clear that the impact of a slow speed zone is relatively low, as there are many private scooters and bikes that were not affected. All right, and this concludes pilot 3, the slow speed zones.
Thank you, Lucas. Does anyone have any questions for Lucas? Okay, thank you very much. Then we will move on to the last pilot case about priorities. And I first give the word to Unix.
Hello. You can see my screen?
Yep.
Okay. Pilot 4 concerning the traffic light priority. My name is Antwerp Helmond. I'm CITS program lead at Unix Traffic. So in Pilot 4 traffic light priority, we have deployed and tested bike and truck priority with CITS connected intersections. In cooperative intelligent traffic systems, the infrastructure and the road users communicate for more fluent traffic. For cyclists, we promote the use of the B-Mobile Sway application, and by sharing the cyclist's real-time position and learning the commonly used route, the Sway application can inform the traffic controller of an upcoming cyclist or even requesting a priority during specific hours of the day. What have we done during the CEF project? We upgraded existing intersections of the city of Antwerp and also intersections of Landis to enable CITS compatibility and link them also to the Flanders Mobility Data Ecosystem, a CITS initiative of Flanders. So also the B-Mobile Sway application was enhanced and deployed on this mobility data ecosystem for use with the connected intersections. So what are the benefits for the users? They don't need to push the button anymore, so they are announced automatically by the application itself, which also means that they have an early announcement compared to pushing the button close to the intersection. By using the application, they are announced much earlier to the traffic light. So the traffic controller is able to handle this announcement of a road user in a much smoother way than if the button was pressed at the last moment. So another thing that is shared is the actual time to green information is visible in the application. So if you use the application, you can actually see the actual status of the traffic light, but also get information when the light will turn green for your actual direction. So this said, what have we done next to that? We try to invite as much as possible cyclists using the involved intersections by flyering, adding local posters to the intersections, sending emails to nearby companies, and also discuss about this in webinars. We also collected user feedback, which TML will later on present. The same priority use case has been done for truck priority, also in cooperation with a local company, Food Savers, on an intersection in the city of Antwerp. The truck drivers of Food Savers were licensed for using the B-Mobile Truckmeister application. So next to the trucks being announced earlier and getting time to green information in vehicle, we provided a mild priority on the intersection based on the time schedule that was aligned with the city of Antwerp. So to recapitulate from the technical side, any type of road user can be announced earlier by using CITS, by using applications, and get this time to green information on the CITS-enabled intersections. The road authorities can assign priorities to any specific type of road user, ranging from mild priority to high priority. It's a choice that they can make. So the policy, which users get which kind of priority, can be specific to certain locations and also bound to time schedules. Based on the earlier announcement and eventual priority set by the authorities, the traffic controller itself can better optimize the traffic lights for more fluent traffic and less hindrance also for the other road users. So how did the users experience this CITS interaction? I will give the floor back to TML to share the evaluation results of the traffic light priority use cases.
Okay, thank you. There were 2 traffic lights in the city of Antwerp that were equipped with traffic light priority for active road users. We recruited cyclists who frequently passed these traffic lights. We recruit them to participate in a trial of the Sway app from B-Mobile. And when I say we, I refer with we to the whole consortium as a whole. We were working on a tight schedule, so we only managed to recruit about 70 cyclists who passed those specific traffic lights. And of these, 24 completed the first survey, the pre-test, and 15 also filled in the second survey after using Sway for 3 weeks. And because of the low number of participants, the figures are therefore only indicative. Regarding the concept of traffic light priority for active road users and regarding its aim, its goal of time savings, we have a few charts. In the left figure, most cyclists were initially positive about the Sway concept, which aimed to save time for active road users whenever possible. However, there were mixed responses after they had used the app. And we believe this is because users expected to have more time, more safe time than they actually did, which is also reflected in the right figure, where in the right figure some participants responded that they were not convinced that they had saved any time. And this is also understandable. For Sway to influence the traffic light, the system needs to learn the cyclist's regular route, and this only happens when they pass the traffic lights multiple times. Since the trial lasted for only 3 weeks, many participants didn't pass the lights often enough for Sway to learn their route. Another factor was that priority was not granted during peak hours as a consequence of a policy decision. That limited cyclists' ability to experience time savings. As it turned out, most participants passed the 2 traffic lights during peak hours and therefore could not get green light granted to them. I get stuck, I think. I don't get the next slide.
Can you click on it?
Yes. Okay. Okay. That's better. As you can see in the left figure, more or less 40% of the participants didn't clearly notice a time game using Sway, but 50% agree or strongly agree that they did notice that the traffic light turned green faster. Most participants like the concept of Sway, recognizing their regular route and automatically requesting green light priority. This can be seen in the right figure. The positive view remained even after the test trial. Well, it comes to adoption. Adoption of Sway was only partial. A modest majority said they would recommend the app to others and were willing to continue using it in the future. This can be seen in these 2 graphs. So we come to the following conclusion. There is acceptance of the concept. That is granting priority at traffic lights for active road users and having the app automatically requesting priority on familiar routes. However, the level of acceptance for the service was lower because the experienced time games were rather modest, less than what the volunteers had anticipated. The reasons for this are the ones that were mentioned earlier. First, when cyclists pass the traffic lights sporadically, Sway needs more time than 3 weeks to learn the cyclist regular route before priority can be requested. Secondly, priority wasn't granted during peak hours, and so as shown in the figure on the right, about 60% of the participants passed the traffic light, those two lights during the peak hours, and therefore could not get any priority granted or positive experiences about the app. And lastly, there were only 2 traffic lights were equipped for this trial. If more lights would be equipped, then participants might have experienced more noticeable time savings, which would also improve acceptance. So for the final slide, partial adoption because of the texting context, and this can be improved if we could prolong this trial period. If priority was granted both during and outside of peak hours, and if more traffic lights would be equipped in the future, then this would accumulate time savings for these cyclists, and the time savings would be more noticeable for them, which would also increase the acceptance. I thank you for your attention, and I give the floor back to Sven.
Thank you, Bart. So now we had all 4 use cases. Does anyone have anything to mention about them? Any comments or similar experiences or dissimilar ones?
Hi, excuse me.
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, so I just have the question related to this particular presentation, the last one. I don't know the technical aspects to it, but how exactly the information to the cyclist, the mobile phone, to the Sway app was delivered? The information from the lights to the phone. Is it over the internet or is it the direct communication?
I think I can answer this question. I'm sorry, I forgot to put on my camera earlier. So this is a long-range use case. So the traffic controllers themselves, they were equipped with a 4G communication module, which communicates to the traffic controller and gets what we call spot information. It's the European ETSI protocol, which describes the information that the traffic controller can share and broadcast to other road users. And this is signal phase and timing information. So the current status of the signal phase, which is active, and also the timing information about how long the state will be active, when is the next time you will get green, or when it will become red. So this information is shared over the network to the mobility data ecosystem. This is a giant broker, and then authorized parties like B-Mobile using the Sway application, they actually subscribe to the intersections and to get this information in real time of the signal phase and timing. In the other way around, when the B-Mobile application, the Sway application, comes in the vicinity of the intersection, it will send a single request message, an ETSI SRM message, also towards the mobility data interchange, which will then forward it to the correct intersection to actually request a certain level of priority.
I see. So in that case, can you clarify the latency of the 4G network is sufficient to provide the timely information of the lights being changed? Is that the latency sufficient? Can you provide any technical information on that?
Yes, typically we feel that the latency is okay. we try to stay within 1 second for this kind of use cases, and it seems to be acceptable, and it seems from a technology point of view that we can get around this 1 second. So starting the new information, fresh information in the traffic controller, which is broadcasted, it can be delivered to the application at around one second. So that's and also in the other way around. So for other use cases, for example, for emergency vehicles, of course, this is important, this latency, but most of the times, just because we have a much earlier announcement, the latency of 1 second is not that critical.
I see. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Anyone else, anything to add or ask? Okay, then I thank the speakers. Then we come to more or less the final part. We are quite ahead of time, so that means, Marleen, you have some time to do it in a more relaxed way. And if not, we will end a little bit earlier, that's no problem. So I'd like to give the floor to you now.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, perfect.
Okay. Good afternoon. I'm Marleen Venke and I work at PXL, University of Applied Sciences. In this session, we will explore the optimal ecosystem for the deployment of CITS. And later on, we will introduce a toolkit that cities and towns can use to get started with CITS. Based on what we have learned from the use cases, we can make some recommendations for building the best possible ecosystem. First one is data accuracy. Our use cases have made it clear, accurate digital maps are a must. When the digital map doesn't match the real world, it can lead to a bad experience for the user, and it can even be dangerous, especially for self-driving cars. So we need a strong system to keep our maps up to date, and the feedback loop from v-tron and Helmond is a good example of how this can be done. The second point is about working together smoothly. We have seen in our project that the legal side of things can be a real bottleneck. Today, everyone has to make separate deals with everyone else, which can be really time-consuming. So if we had a central organization, like for instance C-Roads, that could give out trust labels, it would make it easier for companies to work together. Our third point relates to the need for a networked ecosystem. In Belgium and the Netherlands, different levels of government are all involved in mobility, each with its own jurisdiction. This decentralized approach enables flexibility and ensures that the needs of both the national and the local communities are addressed, but it has also resulted in a fragmented landscape. A robust national CITS governance framework is needed to address this. This framework would establish a central authority to coordinate and guide CITS activities, ensuring alignment with C-Road standards, defining roles and responsibilities, and prioritizing development efforts. It's about moving from the me approach from today to the we approach. Our fourth recommendation is to expand the C-Road standards. Our project has shown that there are no C-Roads protocols for defining and sharing truck access regulation. And given the cross-border nature of logistics, a standardized European approach is essential. So this will help us build further CITS systems that can handle this truck access. The fifth point is simple. If we want CITS to work, people have to want to use it. That means that we have to involve users from the beginning, that is from deciding what we are going to build, to actually putting it into use. We'll talk more about this when we explore our user-centric implementation strategy. And the final point is that we need a system where people can easily report any problem they find. This will help us make things better quickly. So we have considered these 6 recommendations in order to create an ideal mobility ecosystem. In a nutshell, our ideal system looks like this. Imagine a future where vehicles, infrastructure, and road users communicate seamlessly, creating a symphony of data and intelligence. This is the vision of a connected mobility ecosystem. And what are the building blocks that are needed? First, we need a robust and secure system where we can rely on data integrity and confidentiality. The system itself must be reliable and protected against cyber attacks and unauthorized access. That's the foundation. The second essential building block is seamless connectivity. We need cars, roads, and people to talk to each other in real time, and it's important that they all speak the same language. Because everything is connected, we can see a lot farther than we normally could. Right now, we are only looking from the car to the roadside unit using the sensors of our car. But these sensors cannot see very far, and things like weather or stuff in the way can mess them up. By connecting with other vehicles and infrastructure, they can perceive events occurring far beyond the reach of their immediate sensors, such as obstacles or unexpected maneuvers at the far end of the picture. It's like having supervision. This means that if there is a problem like a car breaking down or someone changing lanes suddenly, we can spot that problem much sooner. Additionally, we need a digital twin of the real world. This is a replica of the physical environment, but it is not just a simple digital map. It is like a super smart map that enables analysis, simulation, and predictions, and that can predict what's going to happen. To facilitate this, we need AI algorithms capable of pattern recognition and forecasting. Consider the earlier image. If a vehicle 250 meters ahead performs an unexpected maneuver, AI can predict its future position as we approach. The digital twin can then proactively implement safety measures, such as steering alterations to prevent a collision. This means that the digital twin acts as a protective layer, as a guardian angel, safeguarding us from potential accidents. The next building block is trust and identity management. We only want to receive messages from trusted entities, and consequently, these messages must be authenticated by a trusted authority. This serves as its digital passport, stating, I am this type of vehicle or infrastructure, and I am authorized to send this message. So we can be sure the information is real. To make this work, we need rules and a system to keep everything fair. This framework establishes the rules, oversees the trust mechanism, resolves conflicts, and guarantees fairness in data sharing and decision making. To make this work really well, we need different teams to work together. Government makes the rules, build the roads, provide funding, promote public awareness, and address ethical and legal implications. Researchers come up with new ideas and technologies, and private companies build the cars, the software, and develop viable business models for CITS solutions. But the most important thing is the human being. We need to protect its privacy and safety and make sure everyone can use it. To protect privacy, communications should be anonymous or, for personal data, pseudonymous, and individuals should be informed about the data collected. This will cultivate trust in the system. The system needs to be super strong and reliable, using codes and passwords to keep things safe. This is, of course, especially important for self-driving cars. And the system needs to be easy to use for everyone. This will introduce a range of legal and ethical challenges. Existing legislation will need to be adapted, and new laws will need to be developed concerning issues like data privacy, security, liability, and the operation of autonomous vehicles. There will also arise ethical dilemmas that must be proactively addressed. For instance, consider the following ethical dilemma. An autonomous vehicle is faced in a collision where it must choose between harming one person or harming a group. So we need clear rules for these situations. And additionally, questions of liability and accountability must be resolved. In the event of an accident involving CITS technology, it's essential to determine who is responsible and who has to pay the costs. A legal framework is necessary to clearly define the roles of all involved parties, including drivers, manufacturers, and infrastructure providers. This will pose several challenges, many of which are non-technical and therefore requiring further investigation. Communication protocols will be a significant focus. Real-time exchange of large amounts of data between multiple entities demand reliable, secure, and scalable protocols. We also need to develop AI algorithms for perception, for prediction, and for advanced decision-making. And these algorithms must operate at high speeds. When the model suggests a maneuver and it is executed, the model must incorporate this new information in real time. These algorithms must be robust, reliable, and capable of handling complex real-time scenarios. The system must also be scalable to handle large volumes of data without compromising performance or security. And finally, ethical considerations remain. In the event of incidents, clear guidance must be established regarding liability and regulations must be developed. In the second part of my presentation, I will show you a step-by-step guide for cities that want to deploy CITS. It's a user-centric implementation plan, so the most important thing is to think about people first, from the start to the finish. And we have broken the step-by-step guide. We have broken it down into 7 steps that can be mapped onto a timeline. So first up, we'll look at the decision of whether or not to bring CITS to the city. After that, we'll discuss the implementation process in detail. And last but not least, we'll plan for what happens after we have put it in place. And remember, our main focus is to make sure this works best for the users. So the first step is to conduct a contextual analysis, and this analysis will help the city or the town to decide if CITS is a good fit. This analysis will be carried out within the framework of the European Sea Roads Planning and the National Strategic Planning. A local context analysis goes beyond collecting data about infrastructure and traffic patterns. It involves a deep dive into the social, economic, and cultural features, needs, and challenges of a particular location. A contextual analysis first involves defining the specific area where we intend to implement the new CITS technology, and it involves identifying the primary objectives. These objectives could include enhancing safety or reducing congestion. Next, we collect some data. We look at traffic information like how busy the roads are, how fast people are driving, where there are traffic jams, and where accidents usually happen. We'll also collect data on roads, traffic lights, public transportation, and sidewalks. We'll study the people who live there, like their ages, how much money they make, and their transportation habits. We also check things like air quality, noise levels, and what kind of buildings and businesses are nearby. And finally, we'll take a look at any smart traffic systems we have already and see how well they are working. And we also analyze existing transportation plans. We put all these data together and we analyze it to understand what people want and need from the new system. We also look at the technical challenges. We make sure it fits with existing plans, and we see if there are ways to save money, and we explore the opportunities for innovation. We use this information to identify patterns and trends, and we develop a model that visually represents the various stakeholders and their relationships. This model will serve as the blueprint for implementation. So this will be our guide for moving forward. Once we have decided at this stage to move forward with CITS technology, we'll move on building and putting the system in place. These are the yellow steps on the chart. Both the design and implementation will follow a bottom-up approach. During the design and implementation, we will engage various stakeholders. We will conduct several experiments and learn from our mistakes. This process may present certain challenges, such as integrating with potential outdated systems, which may require upgrades or modifications. Data privacy, security, standardization, and stakeholder coordination are also critical considerations. Let's look at a few ways we can do this. First, we have living labs, where we can test out new ideas in real-world situations. Then there are multi-stakeholder platforms where everyone can share their thoughts and ideas. We can also use participatory budgeting to let people decide where the money goes. And finally, we can start small with pilot projects and keep improving them based on what we learn. Let's also talk about the role of the digital road manager. The digital road manager is a key player. He needs a special set of skills. He must manage and maintain the digital infrastructure. He must have a deep understanding of data management and security. And last but not least, he must be able to coordinate and collaborate with stakeholders and tech partners. This clearly demonstrates the need for a specialized role in this field. Of course, if we have decided to implement a new technology at step 1, you want citizens to use it. To promote adoption, we can utilize the Behavior Change Wheel Guide. This guide is a theoretical model based on 90 behavioral techniques, and thus it allows us to select theory-informed, evidence-based interventions to boost adoption. Firstly, you need to specify the behavior you want to change and identify your target audience. Let's take young drivers as an example. Young drivers have limited driving experience, and studies have shown that they are more likely to be involved in accidents, often due to speeding. Therefore, we aim to promote slower driving among young drivers, and we believe that ISA can help them to more closely match their speed to the traffic environment. From there, behavior change wheel is used to analyze the behavior. We pose questions that help to diagnose which specific component of the behavior needs modification. We look at the capability, does the individual have the physical or psychological capability to perform the desired behavior? Do they know how to use ISA, this is physical capability, and the mental capability is, are they aware of the potential consequences of speeding, and are they aware of the existence and the benefits of ISA? If not, that may be the first thing to address. Then we consider opportunity. Do they have the physical or social opportunities to perform the behavior? How far do they have access to cars equipped with ISA, this is a physical opportunity, and how far is it considered normal within their social environment to use ISA as a social opportunity? And lastly, we look at motivation and whether the behavior is an automatic reflex or requires conscious effort. Reflective motivation is then, for instance, are they afraid of surveillance or of misuse of their data? And an automatic reflex is then, for instance, is the behavior provoked by an emotion or a drive state? The wheel help us figure out what's going on. Once you've identified the behavior you want to change, the model suggests interventions. These are represented by the red wheel and include strategies such as education, persuasion, restriction, and modeling. The model helps us choose the right tool to change the behavior. Based on the specific behavior you are targeted, the model will recommend different interventions. The green check marks show the best options, while those with a red cross are less good options. Let's return to the example of introducing ISA by young drivers. If young drivers don't know how to use ISA, then the table shows that training and enablement are the best options. By incorporating ISA into driver training program and by providing a user-friendly interface, we can ensure that the young drivers can easily and effectively use this technology. If there is a problem with mental capability, it's not being if they are not being aware of the potential consequences of speeding and the lack of knowledge about the benefits of using ISA, you could explain that as education, and you could also make it more tangible by using a VR simulation to demonstrate the braking distance at different speeds. For physical opportunity, you could let them experience the benefits of ISA by equipping driving school cars with this technology so they can experience the assistance of ISA during their training. To increase social opportunity, that is how normal it is for my target group to drive with ISA, a role model demonstrating the use of ISA can strongly influence young drivers' behavior. You can also use restriction. Stricter rules for speeding violation by young drivers combined with educational campaigns can help establish clear boundaries for acceptable behavior and promote safer driving habits. To increase reflective motivation, how valuable they think it is, you can use education and then you explain the benefits of ISA. Incentivation is also an option. You can you can offer reduced insurance rates for drivers using ISA. And finally, we have unconscious motivation, that is behavior that is provoked by an emotion. Let young drivers at the follow-up use a VR headset and let them experience a simulated surprise event, like someone crossing the road, and let them see how stopping distances change at different speeds. So we have developed a short list of potential interventions, and we can compare these interventions using the APIS framework to make an informed decision. This framework compares the interventions using factors like affordability, practicability, cost effectiveness, acceptability, and safety. These criteria will help us assess whether the intervention is within our budget, can be implemented or planned, offers a good return on investment, is acceptable to stakeholders, and is safe. Once you have selected an intervention, you move on to the policy part. So you've got your plan, the red circle. Now you're going to put it into action. It's the gray circle. The gray circle outlines 7 potential policies that can be applied, and examples are communication and marketing, legislation, service provision, guidelines, and social planning. And again, the model will tell you which of these ways works best with the strategies you've already chosen. So the model will suggest which policy from the gray circle best align with the intervention from the red circle. So you pick a policy, build it, put it into action, and then you evaluate it. The next step is the procurement strategy. A city also has its procurement strategy, which can be used to promote CITS. By equipping its own vehicles with the CITS technology, it creates a market pool. It can also achieve cost reductions through bulk purchasing. And additionally, the procurement strategy can act as a stimulus for innovation, as companies will be more inclined to develop these technologies, knowing that the city is interested. After we have put CITS in place, there are still 2 additional steps. We need to keep our digital map current, and the ISA data feedback loop from v-tron built with Helmond can help us to do so. And furthermore, ongoing stakeholder consultations are necessary to assess whether the implementation is meeting the initial objectives. If not, we must be prepared to adapt or make adjustments using an agile approach. I hope that this 7 steps cities and I hope that with these 7 steps cities and municipalities will have the insights and tools they need to implement CITS in a user-centric manner. Thank you for your attention, and now let's open the floor for questions and comments.
Thank you, Marleen. So there was a lot to cover here. I would expect at least some input or feedback from the C-Roads group that is present here. So what are your ideas? Does it make sense? Do you have any critical idea about it? Go ahead.
Are there any questions allowed?
Yeah, you can. It's fully free.
So this is kind of a, I suppose, would be a more of a general question. So you showed several pilots of how the the CITS infrastructure and services were developed and deployed and provided to and tested. Are there any some type of actual academic research or statistical analysis data that would showcase the reduction in accidents, you know, in like a strong impact. At the end of the day, the CITS purpose is to prevent the, you know, the fatal events, the accidents that lead to death of the, you know, the either the vulnerable road users, or be it the, you know, the drivers themselves. So are there any like data you could maybe share? It would be great, or at least you can let me know, and to all the people here, that could justify the overall deployment of CITS and overall, you know, providing the services of CITS services in any area.
Maybe I can touch upon that. That's indeed a very interesting question. We did not, within our project, cover that specifically. Also, of course, in our pilots, we have a relatively small sample of people that are participating and that are using the apps or the onboard unit. But in general, yes, that's definitely very interesting. And on C-Roads level, there is definitely an evaluation assessment template for that. So in general, all across Europe, that is something that is looked into. But specifically for our pilot, of course, the impact has been for road safety and for reduction in accidents has been limited because of the small sample size here.
It's not just
Could
that,
you-
it's also that if you want to know the impact on accidents, if it's just vehicular traffic, either you have to do very long longitudinal studies in time, or you need to take shortcuts with like things like circuit safety measures or anything. But here we're also talking about other participants in traffic, let's say, and then for the short times that the experiments are going, it's difficult to see the real impact of policy. That would require much longer times, much broader implementations, let's say.
So I would then, in that case, if you know the, you know, outside of the scope of these pilot projects, C-Roads have been, to my knowledge, C-Roads exist for quite some time now, and there has been quite overall extensive, you know, deployment of CITS all over the Europe. According to your website, it's, you know, 20,000 kilometers in short range, 100,000 kilometers in long range. So if there is, you know, like that study that has been going on all over the Europe, not just, you know, the particular areas of the or particular, you know, pilot cities. So if there is any something like that, that'd be very interesting to look at.
Yeah, I don't know from the top of my head if there have already been documents published regarding that on C-Roads platform level.
We'll have to check the platform, but there is one important thing here to notice, is that because it's a platform that facilitates trials and use cases, let's say, it facilitates standardization issues, but they are mainly, I mean, the trials, they are still mainly isolated. So even though it exists for a long time, you could have France, for example, in the group, or Germany, and they would also have done their trials, but they would be comparable to ours, which means that you cannot just add the two together and then say, okay, this is a large study. So I'm afraid there will be some inherent limitation into this kind of thing. If you really want to figure this out, then we probably need to go to long-running national tests. That would be my best guess. But
I see. Thank you very much. So another question I had in mind is that you know, the previous in applications, they in the case of like Sway application, they clarified that they're sending these messages over the internet. So I work in a V2X solution provider in South Korea, and we are very interested in where the European market is moving in terms of the whether, you know, sending the CITS messages over the short range or the, you know, the long range communication methods. And for us, it's very important to understand whether which, you know, method will be prevailing in the coming years. So then we can adjust our own, you know, product development in regards to the European market. So if you have any insight or ideas regarding that, where it's moving, whether you will be, focus on sending the messages via the network, or you will, the short range still exists. So it would be very helpful.
So I think at the moment, the focus is still on the mix, where the needs can be adapted based on the specific use case. And as far as I know, there is no intention to move specifically to one or the other only. I think it will remain mostly a mix of the two.
The Commission tried to short track it 2 years ago now, but that didn't work. And so we will be living with this double approach, let's say, definitely the next decade. So hybrid will be the way to go. Okay.
So then,
yes.
Could you give any estimation percentage of, maybe 80% will be mainly focused in, via long range, and the only 20% will be remit? Is that any?
The conflict, let's say, that was, I think it was more 50-50. And there were parties, let's say, there were types of like OEMs, they were on both sides of the line, so that's not making the division. But in the end, I think it boils down to the type of use case that you're dealing with, or the specific application. In some cases, a cellular approach may be much more useful than going full G5 with short-range communication. It depends specifically on the use case. I do think, I'm not sure if there is a comprehensive study that explains which would be the best to use, but there is definitely a difference there, and that can be used. That's probably also at the core of the argument, of the initial argument. You cannot just choose for one or the other. There will be a mix of use cases in any case, and these will require different kinds of approaches.
So you could say that it's not like network communication is dominating, the sending the messages and dominating the, short range communication. There is sometimes it may be 50-50 depending on the use case, and in certain cases it can be the different percentage. So that's your assumption. That's
what I would assume. I don't know if Johan from Unex, if you have any experiences in this, or even Lisa from B-Mobile regarding your, let's say, technical deployments.
If we look at Flanders, for example, the Mobility Data Program, which is a CITS initiative, is mainly focused on long-range communication, so cellular communication, because it's easier to roll out use cases with smartphones, applications, these kind of things. When we look at autonomic driving, autonomous vehicles, we feel that infrastructure-based, so DSRC, the short-range communication is much more reliable at specific locations. But it all depends. The adaptation among a general public, it really relies on the popularity of certain applications. We see, for example, the Flitsmeister application of B-Mobile being much more popular in the Netherlands than in Belgium, for example. It all depends on this popularity of the applications. And also for the short range, it would help if there would be some regulations, like, for example, what was done by ISA. It's really made mandatory by the European Union. We see a lot of car brands adopting the ITS G5 short-range technology, but it's not mandatory, so it's still difficult to say which way it's going. For the long-range use cases, definitely 4G is better than 3G, and maybe with further introduction of 5G, we also follow both of them actively to see where it goes. Maybe 5G will offer the reliability that's needed for some other use cases as well.
I see. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else has a question? And what about the last presentation, the framework that we've shown? or just the issues that we identified. Anyone has a comment on those?
Well, I think from a road authority perspective or like a municipality perspective, I think it's clear that there's a need for big changes in the way of working from a city perspective to facilitate those actually that digital twin and that digital the digital needs that a city has to offer to make ITS possible in the future. But I also have to be like realistic from a city perspective and see that maybe in a bigger city it is possible to make these changes, and there is like the room and budget to do it. But from when you look at small municipalities that where mobility is being done by one or half an FTE, I wonder what happens. And maybe that's more a question like, what if cities or municipalities are not or less willing to change and make these changes in their organization? What will then happen to implementation of ITS, and who needs to step in or what needs to be done?
Thank you, that is clear. Any other comments? Well then, Gwynne, I think we can end early today.
Yes. If there's no other comments or questions, I will just quickly share my screen for a last slide. So first of all, I would like to thank all the speakers for the conference today and all the participants for attending our final conference. As Sven already mentioned, all the presentations will be published on our project website, mentioned here on the slide, but also can be found in the invitation for this conference. And if you would like to know more about the C-Roads platform, you can find more information on their website. And with that, I would like to end this final conference. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Just for all the people that have ticked the box to be kept informed, we will send you the we will send you the notification of the deliverables once they're all published on the website, which will be in a month, 2 months time. Probably in either this week or in 2 weeks time, we will send you the link to all the presentations that you saw today, as well as this entire recording. Should you have any questions, Gwynne is there for you. So thank you all. Can the members from the consortium stay for a second? Goodbye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.